Hello, and welcome to Retail Dive's webinar, How to Harness the Growing Power of Retail Media. My name is Megan Billingsley. I'm with Retail Dive Studio ID, and I'm excited to facilitate today's discussion on retail media and how it's changing the digital advertising landscape for retailers and brands. Today we have with us Inder Singh. Inder is the SVP of Commerce at InMobi, where he is leading strategy, product, and technology. In the past, he sold an autonomous store company to Ola Cabs and was CPTO, head of product and tech, for their fleet business. Before that, he built Glance from the ground up, which became a unicorn in 2 years. He holds 5 U.S. patents in distributed systems, identity, and big data systems across his various tech and product-focused leadership roles at InMobi, Ola, Yahoo, Oracle, Microsoft, and Intel. He holds a master's degree in computer science from BITS Pilani and is co-founder of Serial Hackers, who have won TechCrunch Disrupt twice in 2015 and 2013. We also have with us Surabhi Pokhriyal. Surabhi Pokhriyal is a consumer goods and retail sector leader and has over 15 years of experience working with Fortune 100 companies like P&G, J&J, Kimberly-Clark, PepsiCo, etc. She established and led digital marketing transformations and scaled frictionless commerce for several health and beauty brands in Americas, Europe, and Asia. Surabhi is joining us as an e-commerce evangelist and change catalyst and frequently speaks at leading industry events. Surabhi is currently global head of digital commerce at Colgate-Palmolive, and her views expressed today are her opinion and do not reflect the opinion of Colgate-Palmolive. And finally, we have with us Melissa Burdick. She is the president and co-founder of Pacvue, the software platform for marketers to manage their retail campaigns. A 10-year Amazon veteran, Melissa launched the Amazon CPG and health and beauty retail business. She was an early leader of the Amazon Media Group, launching the first vendor display video ad, and developed and grew the Amazon advertising business. Melissa is well known as an e-commerce thought leader, Forbes agency council member, frequent guest on Bloomberg Technology, and has spoken at many of the leading e-commerce industry conferences. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you all here and to tap into your wealth of knowledge on this subject. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. Please note the slides will advance automatically throughout the presentation. To enlarge the slides, click the Enlarge Slides button located in the top right-hand corner of your presentation window. Okay, now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let's jump into today's topic. In the past year, there has been a dramatic increase in consumers using retail websites and mobile apps to shop. Nearly $1 in every $5 spent on retail purchases came from digital orders. Traditionally, brands have targeted shoppers on social media or through search engines like Google. But Amazon's success with sponsored ads is encouraging other online retailers to follow in its footsteps. And this is why retail media has really taken off recently. Inder, can you speak a little bit about how retail media has come about and the influence of Amazon?
Absolutely. If you look at Amazon, they have been true pioneers in bringing sponsored products and the rise of retail media, to the extent that this has been a massive area of growth of late for the company. From our friends at TK Metrics, we were looking at some data and we found that 70% of all shoppers on Amazon don't go beyond the first page. And today, 4 in every 10 sales which are happening are preceded by an ad click. This leads to a very critical insight that people are coming to these places with a mindset to shop, and advertising is truly effectively working to drive sales. This is a win-win for all players in the ecosystem, being the brands, the users, and the retailers. This is why we are seeing that brands are taking in budgets from other channels and shifting it into retail media and thereby stirring up the retail media revolution, right? This has led to all other retailers actually of all sizes thinking, hey, you know what? We also have omni-channel data and the media assets, and we can build a meaningfully large media business which can get us to which can scale up to 4 to 5% of our gross merchandise volume, which we do in e-commerce. That's where they are looking for specific solutions. That's where we believe that retail media platforms can kick in to help accelerate this journey so that retailers can get there in the next 1 to 2 years. And that's our understanding of why this space is becoming really big, and how retailers are looking at solutions to get there rapidly.
Thank you for explaining the trend in more detail and why it's such a great new advertising opportunity for brands. Melissa, I know that you have insider perspective on retail media, having been at Amazon, so I'd love to also get your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Retail media has really exploded in the last 2 years as more and more retailers are taking a page from the Amazon playbook. Let's talk about the two sides. There's more than two. There's the customer as well. But let's talk about the advertiser and the retailers as stakeholders in this. So from an advertiser perspective, it's a great way to pay your way to the top to get your products highly visible, to drive awareness and ultimately sales. It used to be that you could just list on Amazon and you would just get sales. But with millions of items, the growth of marketplace that launch thousands, if not millions of SKUs a day, you really have to invest in advertising to drive visibility of your products and get them in front of potential customers. It also solves a lot of problems like the cold start problem. When you launch a new item, you have no sales history and therefore your rank is low. So retail media enables you to pay your way to the top of search and then earn your organic ranking. And then there's also so much you can do based on the available data. You can use retail variables as media triggers. So examples, you can advertise items with a certain amount of weeks of cover. As we head into Q4 and supply chain, we heard a lot of issues with supply chain. You're going to want to only advertise items with a lot of weeks of cover, for example, or being able to only advertise profitable items in real time. And then if we look at the retailer's perspective, they're watching the Amazon ad business and seeing how it's driving tremendous profit for the retailer. E-commerce is an expensive cost channel with faster and faster shipping expectations from consumers. Amazon's ad business last quarter grew 87% year over year and drove almost $8 billion in revenue. Walmart, Instacart, Target, all of these retailers launched self-serve advertising offerings last year, and they continue to take more and more page of the Amazon's playbook to help them drive profit, amongst other things.
Thanks, Melissa. It really is interesting to hear your perspective on this. So as Inder and Melissa noted, there's this great new opportunity to monetize their sites with sponsored ads. What else is prompting this increased interest in retail media?
Sure. One of the things that we observe right now is we used to have the classical funnel model that's been in place for, I would say, 50 to 100 years, right? Where we assume that the consumer goes through a rite of passage from attention to consideration to conversion and loyalty. I would say the funnel has so-called flattened, right? The consumer can land on the Amazon site at any point, be inspired by a product advertisement, and go and purchase it, either on the platform or off the platform. An example that comes to my mind is non-endemic brands like Panera Bread, which clearly don't have any soups to be sold via Amazon right now, were advertising during Prime Day heavily on Amazon, and the purchases that are happening offline. So there is a lot of myth busting happening that retailer media is not just promoting sales that happen on the platform, it's influencing a lot of sales that are happening off the platform as well. Because they understand the consumer attention is really short. We are in the world of TikTok made me buy it. So everybody's attention spans are down to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. So when you have your attention span of your consumer at such a premium, you quickly want to influence them and help them get converted and make them buy a thing very quickly. Another thing that comes to my mind is from the retailer perspective. Like Melissa was saying, Amazon reports the other business, the ad business, and that's generating huge year-on-year profits for them. So retailers like Home Depot and Walmart and Target are not blind to this, right? Which is why they are double dipping into the retail media phenomena. Because if you think about it, traditionally retailers operate on a very wafer-thin margin of 1 to 4%. Right? Selling soaps and lotions and shampoos and toilet papers. But when you start selling media, that's where your profitability becomes really high overnight. So it's a smart retailer play. And we as brands speak to every retailer right now, right from Dollar General to Walmart to Target, who are trying to sell media, which makes sense for the most part from the retailer end and the consumer end.
Great. Thank you so much. Inder, I'd love to hear from you. What can we learn from programmatic media's evolution that can help retail media continue evolving?
Yes. Uh, See, we have been, leaders in the mobile programmatic ad ecosystem space for over a decade. Like we have helped close to, 30,000 plus large mobile app publishers succeed in the programmatic ecosystem worldwide. And uh, we believe, by the way, that the same programmatic ecosystem will come to retail media. And let me try to simplify that for you, right? For retailers to be able to maximize the budgets that they get from their existing brands, they will have to embrace the innovations in video, which have happened on mobile in the past, because that is just a better canvas for brands to be able to form a better connect, a deeper connect with users. You can look at what Amazon has done in the last 1+ year with sponsored brand video, and the numbers really look very, very promising. Mobile app developers today, from Facebook to Instagram to any large mobile apps, are driving on video. So if you bring in video, you can actually maximize the budgets you are getting from the brands who are working today with you. To be able to maximize the demand that you get, the ad dollars that you get, retailers will have to have the ability to work with potentially every player out there in the ecosystem rather than locking themselves out to a single platform. That has been the case with any mobile app developer, right, in the programmatic world, wherein through mediation, they work with everybody, despite the big boys, like the Google and the Facebook, right? So the same thing has to happen on retail media to be able to maximize the demand. And finally, to maximize the revenue, they will have to get recurring budgets from all their brands, not just the top 20 or 30% of the brands, right? And if you again look at how it played out on mobile, every impression is programmatically bid. Depending on who can provide better ROI or who can provide better value for the consumers, they get to win the impressions, which means like the power of programmatic automation and optimization powered by machine learning comes in. And I personally believe that you will see that play out in the next few years, that to maximize budgets, to maximize demand, and to maximize revenue, all the key levers which played out in programmatic will come to retail media.
Great, thank you. That was a great explanation of some of the current challenges and the new opportunities retailers can have. The other part of this whole buzz around retail media that we haven't explored yet is the opportunity to use a retail media platform to increase user engagement. Surabhi, I think this is an area you can probably speak to.
One of the things that comes to my mind is the engaging format of the retail media ad in itself. Traditionally, we have seen a lot of static text ads coming from Google and Amazon and so on. But right now, when we speak to the funnel collapsing, we are understanding that traditional upper funnel media innovation that's happening on Instagram or YouTube, we understand that the consumer is very trigger happy in being able to skip the ad right after 2-3 seconds. So we know that sweet spot of engaging with the consumer where we know she will be engaged with our product and brand and not be able to skip the ad. So how do you go away from a static engaging format to a more immersive format that can potentially be shown in a video ad format? From my past life, I've seen several case studies where even putting the simple thumbnails and stitching them together to make short video format ads of 6 seconds or 15 seconds, depending on which platform you are on, can drive a lot of conversion. And I think retail media companies and ad formats are taking a cue from it to what converts better and what is that sweet spot of at what size, what amount of seconds does the consumer get trigger happy and go away.
Excellent. Thank you. Inder, anything that you would say to add to what Surabhi shared?
Yes, absolutely. I think if you look at the way e-commerce is growing, right, like personally, you will see more and more users who will buy things they haven't bought online before, and they'll buy it from brands they are not aware of, right? So if I take my example and I'm in market for $1,000 lens, and the choices are all between good and good, right? So today the experience is that you start your research on YouTube and on Google, and then you spend days. But what percentage of the people will do that as more and more people buy online? I think that's where, to Surabhi's point, the innovation on bringing people whom I can relate to, who are these influencers, onto retail media, who can help me build that judgment and develop deeper connect with the brand. With probably we might see things like live influencer videos on retail media, shoppable videos, which are working on, things like Instagram coming to retail media, so that these new users, when they buy, you buy $1,000 Dyson for the first time, you can make that judgment then and there rather than, going out of the channel. And I'm quite optimistic, that will just take the shopping experience to the next level and help brands sell things online, which they haven't been able to sell probably at the rate and the volumes they expect to do today.
A final point I'd like to make is that as people's shopping habits diversify, brands need to understand where consumers are shopping and what's actually working for the brand across all these channels that we've been talking about. To this point about user experience, advertising needs to be retail aware, what's showing up organically, what are the reviews, how does your detail page look like, your video content compared to your competitors. All these data points are triggers to create more impactful campaigns by improving the customer experience. And I think it's really important to unify all this retail media and e-commerce into one place to analyze the data and KPIs and performance for the advertisers, in that they can really understand what's working, what's not working, do more of what is working in real time.
Excellent. Thank you. So you all have made a strong case here then for retailers to move away from manual processes and use a more programmatic approach, which relies on machine learning. But I know that retailers usually have deep integrations with a single SSP and are often tied into yearly contracts. So are they stuck for now, or can they make the switch? Inder?
Yeah, I think, see, if you go to any retailer today and ask them, hey, are you happy with the platform? So you'll probably, hear this, that, hey, we were promised, these many dollars, but we are getting this, and we are working with the platform provider to get there, right? And the typical cycle is you have a yearly RFP, and then, you do a trial, and everything looks good in trial. But when you want to scale, that's when you hit issues. The real solution would be, that why do retailers need to get logged in? What if there is a programmatic way wherein, if there's a new player who comes in and say, hey, you know what, I can bring in video, or I can bring in influencer video, or, I can just give you better ROI. So a retailer should have the ability to be able to programmatically try out and make decisions in real time on data. And that's the new world which they need to adopt to be able to make these decisions, not get stuck, and truly keep linearly accelerating their P&L without, waiting for the next year cycle to change the platform or to put in another one. I think we will see probably, innovation in the industry, retailers adopting solutions the way mobile publishers have adopted, in the form of mediation, hopefully, to get there.
And another part of this discussion around ROI is how you can measure ROI. Unified reporting is hard to come by, and we need a more intelligent way to act on real-time reporting in an automated fashion at scale. We talk a lot about, at least I do, how there's a need for an IAB for our industry, for e-commerce and retail media. With so many of these retail media platforms launching, we're launching one a month, it feels like. There are discrepancies in KPI definitions and default settings, something as simple as a 7-day versus a 14-day sales attribution, clicks versus views. And so the backend data available in the APIs often allow you to standardize this across retailer platforms so you can truly measure apples to apples as an advertiser. And as an objective third party, we can also help advertisers see their true margin across platforms, which is really critical as well. The other thing that we are focusing a lot on is training in the industry. With all these new platforms that are launching, there's so many nuances, and there's a need to offer training and education to upskill everyone from being generalists to specialists. This is a huge initiative and a kind of a personal passion project of mine, which is to really help create a credentialing program and training program for the industry. And then to add to the confusion, some retailers are diversifying and even testing with multiple SSPs. It's creating a little bit of confusion for brands on the demand side to know where they can play, and more importantly, make sure they're not competing against themselves on their sister brands or even against themselves. But ultimately, it's a good thing for all parties. We're still in this proliferation mode in retail media, so the more choices, the better, and it allows you to test and learn, compare performance. You can make decisions based on cost and kind of all the variables that the advertisers think are important. So the control is really in their hands.
Perfect. So we're at a moment in time where the old ways of doing things aren't working so great anymore. And Amazon has shown that there's a real opportunity for retail media. So why aren't all brands and retailers taking advantage of retail media today? And how can they close this gap? Inder?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at the success of Amazon, right, like, and Melissa has been a veteran in that space, is because I personally think, they have 5 million sellers and they're growing like really gangbusters, right, with COVID. There is a seller who wants to spend $100, somebody wants to spend $1,000, somebody wants to spend $10,000, right? So everybody has the ability to be able to do it in a very simplistic way. And if you look at every other retailers and the legacy systems which they are using to operate their the media businesses, they need similar tools wherein a brand or a seller can come in and say, hey, you know what, if I'm selling these 3 products, these are the 3 products I want to sell, and this is the kind of ROI, in Amazon's terminology of ACOS, I'm expecting an ACOS of 25%. Go and figure out the right users, the right keywords, or the right product pages, and show my products so that you achieve this goal, right? If the process is so simple, then why will you not get budgets from all your brands in a recurring way if you're able to deliver the ROI, because people are coming there with a mindset to shop. So this is where, if you look at how mobile business was in 2015, wherein, there were ad networks and then everything became a DSP and SSP. Every impression is being bid upon in real time. And, there are machine learning based optimizations available for bidding and for targeting, so that any seller can set up these campaigns in a simple, seamless way and get the ROI. That's when you'll truly see the scale coming through. And I think that's where the other retailers are plateauing out, and they need this step function jump, because those brands are not going to give them budgets unless they see the ROI, because they are like small and mid-tier and the long tail as you go towards them.
Yeah, and I would just add, we're still at such an early stage of retail media. For some retailers, they're just launching, developing their APIs and self-service functionality and building out their teams. And then they start working with a handful of integrators, which is what I kind of consider us, as a beta partner, testing their API, providing feedback, help partnering with them to create their go-to-market and collaborate with them. And then we're able to easily offer this to our client base. So it's kind of seamless for them, and new platforms available to them, and they can start testing it. So it's a really great experience for everybody. And then for the advertising brands, they don't have a never-ending budget, as Inder just mentioned. So it's really, having to make a decision of where to play. We've seen a lot of advantage with the launch of new platforms because costs are low, competition is low. I saw that last year with the launch of Walmart and Instacart, where there really was this early mover advantage. And I like to say, would you rather be test and learning when CPCs are 50 cents or $3, which is kind of where they start climbing through time. And so, every platform has its nuances, as I talked about before. It's too much for a person to manually track these things. So having a platform with the ability to bring all that data into one place, multiple marketplaces, locales, all the digital shelf data, the performance data, to drive automated actions and really robust reporting is critical.
I'll chime in here too, along the lines that Melissa was mentioning on automation and intelligence. On the retailer and brand side, I think one of the key imperatives for us is to consider how do we make that experience for the consumer truly frictionless, right? We all have heard of Google's 0 moment of truth, and what we have heard in our management days of first moment of truth and so on. When the consumer engages with the advertisement, is there an opportunity for them to land from the advertisement directly to the cart? We as consumers see a lot of media advertisement, and both as a practitioner, where the advertisement going to the cart can be multiple clicks. There's enough data to suggest that every time you make the consumer click n number of times to the cart, you lose 90 to 95% of your traffic. So all I'm trying to say is there is a ton of innovation possible today in retailer media. We are just unraveling the bundle here, where retailer houses are diving into to see this profitable new way of engaging with consumers, of engaging with their manufacturers. But there's a ton of opportunity in making this truly frictionless and seamless for the consumer.
And I'll just add in here, the part of frictionless commerce is really having the platform to unify everything and activate on it, you need the technology and you need the people. The technology allows you to bring everything together, automate action, and the people are the strategists, the people that are really, making the decisions of what to automate. And so those two things really work to scale together, where you have all this unification happening in one place, making it easy for those people to drive decisions to help drive their business.
Great points. Thank you so much. And definitely something that we will be needing to keep in mind is that customer experience. Inder, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I personally believe that, retailers are going to be really cagey about their data because, that's along with media, the omni-channel data that they have is the key. If I'm North Face and I'm looking to get to people who have bought a skiing jacket 1 year back, I don't think I can get that from Google or Instagram or Facebook, right? But I can get it from a Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, when we want Dick's Sporting Goods to scale their business, the way it happened on mobile, you take a mediation, right? But that's where is the friction point that, my data is going to leak or I'll lose control over my data. That's where at least we have taken a call to truly disrupt this industry and open it up. We are making our mediation platform open source for retailers. So think of it more like, Android and Samsung, right? So because of Android, Samsung had got like 85% of what is needed to build a phone. And then the 15% unique capabilities that they built on their phone to differentiate, right? So we will bring all of this and do it in a way. The system is designed in a way that, if I'm a target today and I'm working with, let's say, one of the leading SSPs in retail media, right? I can plug this in sitting as a man in middle between my server and their server without any permission from any platform. And I become the traffic cop. I can tomorrow, define policies to say if, a new player comes and says, hey, you know what, we have demand on video and we can make it work. Let's do an A/B test for 2 days. Do it in 5 minutes without writing any code. This will truly open up the ecosystem. Retailers will be able to work with more than one platforms. Everybody has to deliver on merit, and that increases yield. And that's what happened on mobile. That's what we did, in the last 10 years to become a leading player there, and we plan to do that on retail media through, making the mediation, which is the unique lever to work with more than one platforms, open source.
Great. Thank you so much for those final thoughts. We are out of time, but these ideas around how to create a more engaging experience for shoppers is a great note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground today with a lot of interesting examples of how retailers can use retail media to generate more revenue potential while making it a more engaging experience for shoppers and a higher ROI for brands that are advertising on retail sites. So I really appreciate you all being here and sharing your expertise. It has been a great discussion. Thank you to our audience for joining us today. And just as a reminder, this webinar will be available on demand and a link will be sent to you after the webinar. Have a great day.